Imagine suddenly losing everything. Your family, your wealth, and even your health. Would you still trust God? It seems impossible, doesn't it? But that is exactly what happened to Job. A man of integrity, faithful and God-fearing, who saw his life collapse abruptly and inexplicably. Welcome to the Millennial Wisdom Channel, where we explore the mysteries and great lessons of the Bible. In today's video, we will reveal the 4 reasons why God allowed Job to be tested and how this story can transform your perspective on suffering. You may be surprised to realize that this narrative has much more to teach than it seems. Many people ask, if God is love, why does He allow righteous people to suffer? This is a question that spans generations and deeply touches those facing difficult times. But what if Job's suffering was not a punishment but part of a greater purpose? What if there were hidden divine reasons behind his pain? Today, you will discover that Job's story is not just about losses but also about redemption, growth, and a surprising spiritual revelation. Before we explore the reasons for Job's suffering, we need to understand what was happening behind the scenes of this story. Job was a blessed man, extremely wealthy, and devoted to God. He had everything anyone could desire: a loving family, health, prosperity, and unwavering faith. However, he had no idea that, in the spiritual realm, something much greater was at stake. In the book of Job, we find a heavenly scene where Satan appears before God to challenge Job's faith. He claims that Job is only faithful because he has everything he wants. So, God allows Satan to take everything from him, except his life. What happens next is devastating. Job loses his children, his wealth, and his health, all at once. He finds himself immersed in suffering and pain, unable to understand why. And now comes the big question: why did God allow this to happen? Now, imagine yourself in Job's place. Have you ever faced a moment when everything seemed to go wrong, even when you were doing everything right? Maybe you lost something of great value. Maybe you prayed for a solution that never came. Or perhaps you felt that your faith was being pushed to the limit. Just like Job, we all face trials. But what does God really want to teach us through them? Now we will reveal the 4 reasons why God allowed Job to be tested and how they can bring clarity to the challenges you face. First reason: to prove genuine faithfulness. Many people follow God expecting rewards. But would we remain faithful even if we received nothing? Job demonstrated that his faith was genuine. Even in suffering, he continued to worship God. He tore his clothes, mourned deeply, but never cursed the Lord. His testimony became an example of unshakable loyalty. This is one of the greatest lessons of faith, remaining faithful not because of what God gives us, but because of who He is. Many times, God allows trials so we can evaluate whether our faith is true or merely conditioned on circumstances. What about you? Would your faith withstand the test of the desert? Second reason: to defeat Satan and prove the power of perseverance. Job's story was not just about him. It was a spiritual battle. Satan wanted to prove that God's servants are only faithful when everything is going well. He believed that by taking everything from Job, he would deny his faith. But the opposite happened. Job suffered, questioned, and cried, but he never turned away from God. His perseverance was a direct blow against the enemy's lies. This teaches us something powerful. When we endure hardships without abandoning our faith, we are not only winning our own battles, we are glorifying God and shaming the forces of evil. Have you ever thought that your trial might be serving to defeat Satan's intentions? Third reason: to teach that God is in control, even when we don't understand. Job did not know what was happening behind the scenes. He questioned, cried, and sought answers, but in the end, he understood that God is sovereign. This is one of the greatest challenges of faith: trusting without understanding. God never promised that we would explain everything. He asks us to trust His plan, even when we cannot see the way out. When God finally answered Job, he did not give direct explanations. Instead, he revealed his greatness and power over all creation. This teaches us that, many times, the answers we seek are not as important as the trust we need to have. Can you trust God, even when everything seems meaningless? Fourth reason, to restore and multiply blessings. Job's suffering was not the end of his story. After his trial, God restored everything twofold. He had new children, new wealth, and an even more blessed life. This teaches us that no suffering is in vain. God turns pain into testimony, tribulation into glory, and loss into restoration. If you are going through difficulties now, remember, God can restore everything and even more. Job's story teaches us that God has greater purposes that we do not always understand. But he was not the only biblical character to face challenges to fulfill a divine plan. Samuel, the great prophet, also lived through times of uncertainty and had to fully trust God to complete his mission. Samuel's prophecies changed the destiny of Israel, just as Job's story brings us eternal teachings. If you want to understand how Samuel's prophecies impacted an entire nation, watch the video, The 5 Prophecies of Samuel That Changed Israel's Destiny. You will see that God's plans are much greater than we imagine. Job's suffering teaches us that our trials are never in vain. Even in moments of greatest pain, when everything seems meaningless, God is still in control. Sometimes, he allows difficulties not to punish us, but to teach us, strengthen us, and reveal something much greater. Maybe you are going through a difficult time right now. Maybe you are asking yourself, why is this happening to me? Or feeling like God has forgotten you. But know this, God never loses control of your life. His silence does not mean absence, and his delay is never negligence. God's timing is perfect, and he sees what you cannot yet see. Job suffered, questioned, and cried, but he remained firm. In the end, he understood that God always knew what he was doing. His suffering was not the end of his story, and neither will yours be. Now we want to know, have you ever faced a situation that tested your faith? How did you deal with it? Share in the comments. Your experience can help others. If this video touched you, leave your like and subscribe to the Millennial Wisdom channel. Turn on notifications to keep learning about the great teachings of the Bible. See you in the next video. May God strengthen and bless you.